I'm soaking my A's, and once they're soaked, you can pull them out. You'll feel a smooth and a rough side. The smooth side will be your outside. Once they're pliable, fold them in half, take a pencil, and do a little mark in the center. You can feel the difference once you've soaked them, which is the inside, which is the outside. The hairy side goes on the inside. You don't need to measure them, just fold them in half and draw a line. And this is an important step or your basket will be very wonky. It will not line up if you don't make your pencil marks. We're going to have an A at the top. I'll move our bin of water out of our way. A, followed by the short piece, which is a B. Again, lining up all those little marks you made. And then C. And then we're following that with a B. Then we're doing another A. And if you have your 2x4 weights to use, this is the time to use them to help hold your pieces. We're going to do another B in here. This is why you don't want to take everything out of your kit at one time. You'll have a mess and it'll be very confusing. So now we've got A, B, we're going to do C. Another B and A, B, this is C. This is making the base of your bag, your basket. There's a diagram in your instructions as to the order in which these go. This one. Was the A. Next thing you're going to do once these are all lined up is take pieces D and E and start soaking those. I'm going to soak D first, and then we're going to mark those in the center. So here's our piece D. Get that soaking. They don't have to soak too long. Just enough to get them pliable. And if you like, some basket makers put a little bit of fabric softener in the water just to soften the reed even more, but it's really not necessary. Okay, you're going to take out one of your D's. When you bend it, you'll see which side is hairy and which one is smooth. The hairy side gets your little mark. You can kind of see it. It's fuzzy on this side.
I had to get a bit closer.
No. We're going to start weaving these, starting with piece D. And we're going to start by going over A, under B. Over A, under B. We're going under all the beads. This is basically just getting your basket started. Once you get your base done, everything will be much easier. Then you're going to pull that through, and you've got your mark on here. So you've got 17 of these pieces. So the X's should be in the, or the line you drew with the pencil should be in the center of this piece. And the line you drew on piece D should be halfway up. So 8 of the pieces should be above that line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should be right on that middle piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 is in the center here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, we're going to take a piece E. E is the 1/2 inch. And we're going to go just the opposite. We're going to go under, over, under, over. So we're going under a lot of these. Every other one. And the opposite ones that you did in the first row. Whoop, we're losing this. I guess we're going to move a little further over on the table. When you get that next piece done, line up the mark in the center, same as you did it on the previous one. We've got these lined up nice and tight. Okay, we're going to take the wider piece now. That'll be our next one. And we'll go back to over under. find our little mark in the middle. I'm going to add one to the other side here. This one will go under. Again, we're going to pull this close to the middle with our mark or a pencil on this. And just check your work to make sure you didn't miss any, that you went over and under all the way. You'll notice these are 1/2 inch wide, or a little wider is a 5/8. So you're alternating those, which is D and E. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is use that spray bottle of water and wet your reeds. Again, you're making sure that everything is lined up nice and straight here. And when you get to this point, you should have about a 10 by 12 inch base for your basket. Then you're going to take these short pieces from piece B, trim them off at the second piece going up. Cut them right down the center. This is called chicken feet, and you have a diagram in your instructions. Those are going to get stuck underneath the pieces alongside of it. And if you need help, take your screwdriver, which we've got one here. Take a screwdriver to pick up the reed that you need to slide under. You're going to do this on both sides of your base. Slide it in there. Push them down nice and tight. If they're getting dry, make sure you spray them good, because you don't want your reeds to crack. Again, you're going to fold it over, trim it at the bottom of the second reed, cut it down the center, and then work them in. Get your little chicken feet under the cross pieces. Nice and tight. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, I've already soaked this spaghetti twine. We're going to start on the third reed at the top of your basket base, and you're going to take your front piece go behind the one that's the next one, then the next piece is going to go behind the next. So you're kind of overlapping all along the way. Keep doing this all the way around your basket. When you get to the corner, and work your way around. Keep going around, pulling this reed down towards your base. This is called spaghetti twining. If you have a short piece of twine, don't worry about it. We'll work the ends in. You can start with another section. I'm going to turn this now the other way just to make it a little easier to work at the top. The front one always goes behind the next one. And now when we get to the end, what we're going to do is just go past the one you started on. We're going to trim these off and work them under the ones that are already there. So we just stick them under here to hold them in place. That's all you need to do. Okay, the next thing we're going to be doing is wetting your side pieces really well. And then we're going to start pulling them up into a basket shape. And the best way to do this is to use those clippy clothespins you brought along. Pull this all up to get a nice shape. This is not an easy part of the basket, but it's not that difficult either. Pull them up any way you can, just to start getting a shape to it. Once you've got these up, sometimes it helps to put something over them and let them sit for a little bit like this, just to get them used to bending up. So if you have your little boards, you could pull them up, put your board down on there just to have it get used to being bent. While that's sitting, you've got 9 pieces of long reed, which is labeled F. Those can be soaked now. You're going to use 3 of those at a time, so I would just soak 3 to start with. When you start on those 3, soak the next 3. Okay, again on your weaver, feel for the smooth side or the fuzzy side. Your smooth side's going on the outside of your basket. You want to have that loose end on the, where you're starting on the inside of one of these spokes. So inside, outside, just like braiding. And you might want to clip this first piece just so that you can get it without it falling out. And I like to start at the 3rd or 4th reed from an outside edge. You never want to be right at the corner. Use your clothespins to help yourself out along the way. The first one is not going to look like you're doing much because your basket doesn't have much shape yet. But as we add the next couple rows, it'll start taking really beautiful shape. Now we're coming to where we started. When you get to that starting point, you never want to have one of your cut edges on the outside of your basket, so you want to overlap several spokes. So here's where we started. We're going to go over. Now this would be a good spot to clip this. And get that piece of reed right behind there. Now your loose end will not show from the outside. Okay, now when you start your next row, don't start in the same place. Pick a different side of your basket and do the same thing. You're going to start over one reed. Now you have to go on the opposite side of where you were last time. So if you were over a reed, this time you're going to be under the reed. So just make sure you're looking at the one before. If you were over, this time you want to be under. What you want to do now, after you have these 3 rows in and you've gotten them all settled, make sure that these are pretty much the same distance apart, all your upright spokes, so that your basket is not very crooked when you get it done. So if you've got this all done, the next thing we're going to do is put in our colored section. And you need 6 pieces of colors. You're going to do 1 row of color separated by a piece of number 1 seagrass. And then you're going to do another color, finish off with seagrass and do a 3rd color. Then we're going to do 3 more rows. If you happen to have a colored piece that's round on one side and flat on the other, put your flat side to the inside. So we will start, you can basically start anywhere. I'm going to try to start where we don't already have a seam from our last row. And we're going to go under and over, same as we did before with our first color. And remember to keep packing this down tight as you go, because it may loosen up for you. And you're soaking your colored reed, but not as long as you do the neutral colors, the undyed, because these will spread onto your natural reed, and you don't want that. So soak them just a little bit of time, take them out, dry them off really well. Otherwise your fingers will be all full of the dye and it will get all over your beautiful natural reed. And we're going to finish this row the same way we finished our other ones. You want to overlap. If for some reason your reed, this colored reed breaks, just overlap the last piece and put the other piece right on after it. As long as you're overlapping, it doesn't matter how many pieces you put in a row. You'll see that the basket is starting to take a little bit more shape now as we've added this piece. Okay, we're back to the beginning, and again, we're going to overlap, and then we're going to cut it so that we can hide our end behind one of the upright spokes. And this is a good spot to do that. Then we're going to take our seagrass. You should have 2 pieces of this. They're both pretty long. You want to start this on the side because we're going to tie it, and leave a section long enough that you can tie it. And this one, it's up to you. You can go opposite of where your reed was on the last row. In other words, put it on the other side of where your color is, or it can be on the same side as your color. It's up to you which way you want to do it. I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to leave enough that I can tie it off at the end. Right. Right. I'll say that when I get to the end. And keep this piece long because we're not going to cut this. We're using this for this entire colored section. We're getting close to where we started. We are not going to cut this now. As I said, we're going to leave this to the inside of our basket now. This is where it's going to just sit now, and we're going to start with our next color. Once you have your second row of color, now take your seagrass twine, put that all the way around. This is going to be in between your colored rows. This will end up going the same way as the last one you did. You can see how it's taking more shape now that we've got a few of the rows done. Much prettier. Now we're coming to the end where we've got our piece from the first row we did. We're going to pull this to the inside, and this is where we're going to tie this in a square knot. If you don't feel secure about your knot, then when you are doing this, use a little bit of crazy glue on the knot just to be sure it holds. Once it's knotted and you're happy with it, just trim those ends off. That's all you need to do. Now we've got one row of color left, then we're going to do 3 weavers again, and then more color. Our 3 rows of colored reed separated by seagrass, and now we're going to start another section of our weavers, and we're doing 3 more rows of weavers. Then we're going to repeat with 3 rows of our colored again. So pick wherever you want to start and just have at it. We have our next 3 rows of weavers. Now we're going to repeat our colors. You can put them in any order you want, but I'm going to repeat it the same way we had it. So I'm going to soak this and we'll come back and show you that. The other piece of seagrass twine you have is going to go in the center the same way the other one did. I recommend that you put your knot on the other side though, so they're not both on one side, okay? Have our last 3 rows of weavers. This might be a good time to take a look at your basket and make sure that you've packed it nice and tight. If you see big gaps on the side, use your screwdriver or your packing tool and press it down so it's nice and tight. It'll make your basket just look that much better. So take your next section of weavers, and again, you've got a right and a wrong side. Wrong side goes to the inside, and start weaving. We're going to do 3 more rows of these weavers, and then we're up to the rim. Okay, we have our last 3 rows of weavers. So we have a total of 9 rows of weavers. We have 6 rows of colors, which are separated by the thin number 1 seagrass twine. Now we're going to use a 3/8 inch wide piece of reed to do our top row. As we get to the ends, we're going to put our handles on. So you might want to weave a handle through right off the bat. Slide your reed onto the handle. We'll try that, at least part of it. Maybe not. Let's try it without doing that. In okay, I think we're at a handle. Add a handle over. And on the outside. Just going to have to kind of putz with your handle to make sure that it's centered on the ends. Okay, when we get to the other end, of course, we're going to have to do our other handle. I think we're at that point. Not too many in the center. That's better. Okay, we gotta cut with this handle. Okay, our rim row is on. We have our handles positioned. Now, you're going to go around your basket, and all of these upright spokes that are to the inside, you want to trim those even with the top of your basket. Only the inside ones. You're going to go around your whole basket and trim those. You're going to want to be sure you've got your remaining spokes nice and wet. We're going to bring those to the inside, and we're going to trim them off on an angle and slip them behind one of your weavers. Just like that. That'll hold this entire top row in place. This one will get trimmed again. I like to cut it on an angle so that it slides in a little bit easier. You want to hold this, you want to have it so that you can get it behind that second row of, or third row down of the weavers. Second weaver beyond the row you just did. Put a little point on it, use your screwdriver to hold that reed out a little bit. Stick it right behind there. Work it down. Okay, we're going to trim it. It's going to be even. It wants to go behind this one right here. So we're just going to trim that. And make sure these are nice and wet so they don't break at the top. Pull that weaver out, slide it right behind. Okay, now we're at the part of doing our rim row. You want to overlap this about 2 inches. You've got more than enough, so get a little bit of an overlap. Use your scissors and cut it off so that you've got about 2 inches. And then what we're going to do is the part that's going to be on the underside of your basket, you want to trim some of this off so that when you overlap it, it's not sticking out. And I'm doing that here with a little tool called a scarfer. If you don't have a scarfer, use a knife or anything you can, or this is the Stanley scraper that you would use to smooth wood. If you have anything that cuts the ends off of wood, and you want to only cover about 2 inches because that's going to be your overlap. So you want to just get that a little thinner. Put it back on your basket. Don't have it overlap right by the handles. Use your clothespins to hook it on. And then we can trim a little bit more off of this one.
We're a little over on the.
We need to come over on this side, Mom.
We're going to trim a little bit more. And then I'm
Check
going to
that
take
side.
a pencil over here, and I'm going to mark how much it overlaps. So about to right here. And then I'm going to take this off again. This part here now, I'm going to smooth this out on this side, taking just a little bit of the wood off of this piece of reed.
Why?
So that when it overlaps, it's not sticking way out. And that should do it. This piece will overlap here. We got a nice tight fit. If you look at it from the top, you'll see it lays much smoother and flatter. So put that on. We'll take our second piece of flat oval. We're going to do the same thing, but this piece is going to go on the inside of our handle. And it should overlap in a different spot than where that last one overlaps. So let's do it on this side. We can scarf this side right off the bat before we put it on. Okay, and our overlap, I'll mark again with a pencil. Let's see, be about right here. This is where we're going to cut. And we're going to take that inside piece and we're going to trim off some of the inside. Overlap, put our clothespin on. Now you can use clothespins to hold these two pieces together all the way around your basket. I prefer to use zip ties to hold it on and then trim them as we're going around. So let's do the zip ties next. Okay, we've got those two rim rows on. Your pattern says to put this on the outside of the handle. I prefer running it through the outside rim row, running it through the handle, not the inside one, but the outside one, because it makes a much nicer looking basket. But it's up to you. If you want to run it just on the outside, go for it. Then we use zip ties to hold the two rim rows together. You can use your clothespins, but I found that the clothespins tend to pop off quite easily. So I prefer using zip ties, and most of the basket weavers that I know prefer the zip tie. So now we're ready to use the what's called lashing or flashing. This is what goes around. We're going to weave this around the top to hold this the rim row on. You also have a nice thick piece of seagrass, and that's going to go on the top inside these two rows. So as you're starting to weave this, you're going to want to, I'm going to pull this out, stick it through to the outside, the first piece of lashing, and I'm going to run it back up on the outside and back down inside between your 2 rows of rim. Pull this tight. Now that will hold that in place. And in between every one of these upright pieces, you're going to stick this in. I can get it through. If you can't find where you need to put it, use your flathead screwdriver to open up a space for yourself. And we're going to go over again and in between our next upright spoke. This is another reason why you want to make sure your spokes are pretty parallel, because otherwise it isn't going to look real good when you stick these in. Now we're going to do this going around the entire top of the basket. And as you pass these zip ties, you can clip them off so they're out of the way. Again, you're sticking it between each of your upright spokes and under that little 3/8 inch piece of top row. This is going to anchor everything together at the top of your basket. Okay, now we're at a handle, and you can go right over your handle just like that. It's not going to matter. And then pull it through the inside and keep on going. Okay, we've got this lashing. It went around the entire top of the basket in between each of your upright rows. Now, this reed or the seagrass that we put at the top, you want to just trim that so that it's even at the top, which is what I'm going to do right here. So you just want it to meet. I'm going to use a little tool here to pull it up a hair. Now our pieces just meet. Now where this last piece of lashing is, we're going to pull that up on the inside. We're going to go under our seagrass. And pull it out the front. Once you get that lashing out, it's going to be a little piece sticking out. Just trim that. Not going to show. That's it. Now your basket is officially complete. If you see any little hairy spots on your basket, just trim that off. You can also, if you want to get a nice smooth finish, take a fire starter and just go around and let it burn off any of the loose hairs you find on it. Then the last thing we have to do is spray it with a clear lacquer after it's dry. When you dry it, hang it on a hook somewhere. If this is really wet and you set it down on a surface to dry, it's going to get all moldy on the bottom. So the best thing to do is hang it from a handle so that the air can circulate, and give it a day or two to dry out really well. Once it's dry and you've trimmed all the loose hairs that you want to trim, that's when it gets sprayed with a clear lacquer spray. I will show you that. Grab it. It's called Weaver Stain. This is the clear natural finish so that the basket will look this color. If you, people have asked, can we just use polyurethane spray? But if you use a polyurethane, it seals your basket and your basket will dry out because it doesn't have a chance to breathe. So only use the Weaver Stain. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. You now have a completed first grade Waldorf School basket. Thank you.